and you're invited to do so as well, Jack.
Yeah,
Although I
sure.
don't actually, have you started streaming on X? Because I don't see the streaming thing.
I don't. Me
No,
personally?
I'm
No,
asking
I
Steve.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is. I'm watching. I'm looking at it
Oh
on
yeah,
Jabber.
yeah, it is live. Great. Yeah, I see our show. So, Jack, if you're on X, it's the JS Jabber
Mm-hmm.
account. You can
Yep.
feel
Looking
free
at
to
looking
repost
for
or
it right
like or
now.
whatever.
There you go. JavaScript Jabber. Yeah. Okay.
So just one more second. Just one more second.
It's a very long second.
Yeah, really. Right?
Seriously.
Yeah. It's a long form second.
Yeah.
It's an LLM second. Yeah.
It's funny. We should probably talk about it later during the show. But in the good old days, I would when I was working in C++ and stuff like that. I would run the compiler and then have to literally wait for several minutes while it was
Yeah, sure.
like doing
That's
stuff.
coffee time.
And that was
Absolutely.
coffee time, newspaper
Yeah,
time, because we were reading
totally.
actual newspaper. And I'm back there again. I run the AI. It
Right?
runs for
Exactly.
it runs
Yes.
for 3 minutes, and I have to like,
Yeah.
what do I do with myself?
Well, apparently you run other agents simultaneously.
Yeah, but
That's your job now is to run
I
like
can't
5 at a time.
multi-thread. Like I can't multitask like that.
Well, you got to learn, brother. That's the new hotness is to have like and apparently like it's really like people are like, "Ooh, I can run all 5 and I don't even need to do like the Git multiple checkout thing or whatever, the multi-host thing or multiple routes thing." Like,
anyway,
no. Man, I'm just going for it.
let's start the show for real, and then we can talk about this.
Let's
stuff.
go.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
Yep.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another thrilling episode of JavaScript Jabber. It's been a while, and it's good to be back here. I am Steve Edwards, the host with the face for radio and the voice for being a mime, but I'm still your host. And I'm here with one of my regular co-panelists, Mr. Dan Shapir, hailing from Tel Aviv. How you doing, Dan?
I'm fine. I'm doing well. Not as regular as I would like to be recently, but glad to be back on.
So when you say not as regular, you mean on the show?
I hope in terms of podcast hosting, right? Like it's not that.
That's what you mean.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll tell you about the name I gave.
That's a different conversation.
The title I gave my talk at the recent No TLV conference. It just goes right to that kind of humor. It was a talk about using heap dumps to analyze memory and CPU issues. So the original title was "Taking a Dump Using Heap Dumps to Analyze blah blah blah." So yeah, and then the conference actually changed the title on me. That's the first time it happened. They removed the taking a dump part. I wonder
what. Oh man, come on!
But I did keep it in the slides, though. I did keep it in the slides, though.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah,
they don't know. They don't. Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah. Just gonna be a stick in the mud, just when you got a good.
Right.
Yeah.
You got a good title going.
So I
gets
was
people wondering.
I was talking about being a regular on the show. Unfortunately, life happens, and for various personal reasons, I could not be on as many shows as I would like to be. So hopefully things get better, and I'll be able to be a more regular panelist / host on the show.
Yeah, life has been very lifey lately. For me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And let's get to that other mystery voice you were hearing talking with Dan and I. This is Mr. Jack Harrington of Netlify and TanStack. How you
doing, happy to be here, and happy to be on the JS Jabber podcast.
All right, as you can tell, Jack is a very shy and retiring kind of guy. So
100%.
First,
I've never been on a podcast before. This is my first time.
Oh my gosh, and he's a Deborah. So
no, I actually am on the Front End Fire podcast. Just a plug there.
Yeah, and you used to be on the React podcast.
That's right. I used to be part of this syndicated podcast group.
Oh, okay.
On React Roundup.
Well, we'll get to shameless plugs at the end. So,
okay.
But for now, why don't you just tell us what you haven't told us yet about who you are and what you do and all that kind of fun
Sure,
stuff.
yeah. So I'm a principal DevRel now. I work with Netlify to talk about everything Netlify's got going on, and also to work on TanStack. So that's Tanner Lindsley's ecosystem of libraries, including most interestingly, I think recently would be TanStack Start, which would be a competitor with Next.js in the SSR space, fully a full stack space. And then TanStack AI, which you can kind of equate to like a Versal AI SDK, and then the really cool TanStack DB, which is actually more of a real-time sync system, which is actually another kind of cool part of the trifecta. And then famously known for React Query, so that's also part of the TanStack ecosystem.
I've actually been trying to get the relevant people from your kind of amorphous organization to come and talk about TanStack DB. I've been unsuccessful so far. Hopefully we can get
let's
them
fix
on.
that.
Yeah, please
we can
do.
Fix that. Yeah, we can fix that.
Well, we've had the most relevant person on here not too long ago, Mr. Tanner Lindsley himself. So,
yeah. Well, Tanner, it's the name of the stack because it's great SEO, and he came from the SEO space. But in most projects, there is a lead, and that lead is not, in that case, Tanner.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the first time I interviewed him on, I asked him where the name TanStack come from. I mean, like, did he get a good, really suntan one time or something like that? No, it's my name. I said, oh, okay, yeah, right. That doesn't make sense, right? Tanner,
yeah, Tanner,
okay, gotcha.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Yeah, I guess it's indicative of success when you become the big boss and you don't need to work on the nitty-gritty anymore.
Oh, he's definitely in the nitty-gritty. But let me tell you.
I know. You can't get Tanner out of the nitty-gritty.
No. In fact, actually, the way that I got into TanStack was I built the Create TanStack app, CLI. So right when Create React app was phased out, I was like, hey, Tanner, let's go and I'll just go and make like a Create React app variant where all they got to do is just change React to TanStack, and I'll give you basically the same app with our stuff underneath. And he's like, yeah, that's a great idea. And so I built that out, and then it became this kind of like huge thing that, so we added add-ons and examples, and, added support for Solid, which we can now support. And we're going to add support for Vue and all that. And actually just recently he kind of basically took it over because he was going and integrating it onto tanstack.com. So you can now do tanstack.com/builder and basically get like a checkbox list of all the stuff that you want in your app. And you just say, hey, cool, export this. And we'll give you a zip that's got it all. It's pretty cool.
Cool. So basically, instead of running it locally via your CLI, you can also just go online, fill in a form, and get exactly what you need.
Exactly. And we're going to be doing a lot of cool stuff in that space.
Now, what was the Vue support you just said you had? I'm a Vue guy.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So basically, TanStack Start is really just TanStack Router with some extra stuff for like server-side rendering and server functions and API routes. And both of those things, Router and Start, are actually essentially an agnostic core. Like Router is an agnostic core, and then there's a React variant of the Router that then uses that agnostic core. And so we've got two different versions of, we got a bunch of different versions of Router, and now we've got a bunch of different versions of Start. So we've got a React Start, but we also have Solid Start. So you can actually build on TanStack Start using Solid. And Vue is just now kind of getting into like the alpha phase. So we're going to have a Vue version of Start and probably Angular at some point. So yeah. And we're doing the same exact approach with AI. We have agnostic core for an AI client, and then we wrap that for Vue and Svelte and React.
So for the router, then would you use that instead of Vue Router? I guess I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, you'd use that instead of Vue Router, and yeah. So then you get file-based routing, you get code-based routing, however we want to play it.
So you wouldn't have to use like Vue versus Nuxt then to get the two. You could use either or with Vue.
So I would say TanStack Start for Vue would be a competitor with Nuxt. How it, like in terms of like replacement and all that, I can't say that for sure, because I do know that like you can actually do some interesting configurations. Like for example, you can use Astro. You can actually have TanStack start for whatever React or Solid or whatever you want routes within an Astro app. So you can actually have like an Astro app that has like your homepage and all that. And then when you want to get into the app, like you have like /app, and then that's all TanStack start routes with all its routing. So that's actually quite nice. You get like a combination thing. What's that? Who bought
Cloudflare?
Cloudflare bought Astro. Yeah, that was a surprise to me. I mean,
I saw that come out.
Not
here. Yeah,
really.
I saw Fred
keyed in, but
we got to get Fred on. I haven't talked to him in a while.
Oh, Fred's great, and I would love to hear his perspective on.
Yeah, I had him around version 4, version 5.
We had him
both
on
Views and View and here. We've had him on here.
Yeah, we've had him on here a couple of times. We definitely should have him back if you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'll have to reach out to. I'll reach out to Fred.
No, it's his job to do the Cloudflare.
Yeah.
I'm glad he. Well, I don't know. I'm happy for him. That's clearly success.
Yeah. Look, he did transform it into a business.
Yeah.
So effectively selling your business or is an exit. You know, it's a success story.
Yeah. I don't know what that means for the ecosystem, but it's cool. Cloudflare is a great company, so I'm very happy for him on that front. Like I know, like Sunil over at Cloudflare, we have a great time hanging out. He's fantastic. Yeah, love the Cloudflare folks.
So going back to the topic at hand. Oh, you know what? Before then, so one more thing. So you were saying that you're introducing TanStack Start as the basis, as kind of a meta framework on top of a variety of front-end frameworks. You mentioned, of course, React, where it's a kind of an alternative to Next.js.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying kind of because it has a bit of a different philosophy. We've actually spoken about it with Tanner. Next.js, we would say, is backend first and can do front end, whereas TanStack is like front end first, and then you can enrich it with backend. Is the way that I would put it.
Yeah, that's perfect. Although then the next thing certainly gets more complicated because you got like literally 2 different types of routers there. You got the Pages router and the app router, and they work on two entirely different models. That being said, TanStack Start is coming out with RSC support sometime soon, so excited about that.
He was talking about that as well.
Yeah, and it's a different model than the app router model. Don't expect that you're going to get the same exact thing, and you're going to get a lot of different approaches and different benefits.
For those like me who don't know what RSC support is, can you elaborate on that?
Sure. It's called React Server Component Support.
Okay.
So it's a feature of React that we kind of really saw canonically in Next.js as their app router. And the idea is that everything is essentially server-side rendered first. And if you don't actually say that you want this to run on the client, then we don't actually send the component code over to the client for rehydration on the client. So potentially, if you've got a very static app, you get a big performance boost out of RSCs. But in reality, the reality on the ground is somewhat different because the page size, the actual physical bytes of the page are actually like 3 times the amount of size that you would see coming out of the Pages router. So there's a big difference there. So yeah, some interesting architectural choices there.
We're kind of digressing from the original topic, but I do want to touch on that because you brought it up. I have an interesting oscillation with how I define or explain RSCs. I had an original explanation, which I kind of which was my original explanation. If you've gone back in time and listened to my series of episodes on the virtual DOM here on the podcast, I think I kind of mentioned it toward the end. And then after having Dan Abramov and friends on the podcast, I kind of veered away from it. And now I find myself kind of going back to it. And that's my explanation for React Server Components is now again VDOM over the wire.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I agree completely. And the nice thing about the TanStack approach is we give you pretty much exactly that. Like if you, so it's up to you how you want to deploy that. So if you
So
want the raw stuff, you can basically you can put it in React Query if you want. You can have it, wherever. I've sent it over the wire on server side events, which is really cool. So yeah, no, there's a lot of cool things that you can do when you think about it from that perspective.
yeah, I kind of veered away from it because the first essential implementation, and for a long time the only implementation, which was Next.js, really tied it to the routing behavior. So it
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
exactly VDOM, it was more of a way to get the pages in a sense, kind of a replacement for loaders in a sense. But
yeah,
now that I'm seeing alternative implementations like the one in TenStack, I'm kind of going back to that original definition.
yeah. I agree. Yeah, Waku was very analogous to Next.js, and I think I think those two things were there because the React team was like, this is our vision of RSC kind of thing. And I remember talking with Daishi pretty early on about Waku stuff, and he's like, "Oh, don't use it like." I was using it for micro front end stuff. I was like using it so like I would change a component property, and it would automatically just go grab another instance from the server and re-render it. And he's like, "No, no, no, don't use it that way. That's not what the way they want it to be used." But it works perfectly fine that way if you want to do that. And that's the great thing about the TanStack approach is we give you the flexibility so you don't have to go and render the whole route and pay all that flight data cost for all of it. You can go and have that. Okay, I just want to have this component re-render off the server in place, and then bring that data back down, and it works. It's really cool.
And again, it has to do with flipping the direction because in the Next.js, everything is server first, and then you explicitly need to buy into being client side.
Yeah.
Whereas with TenStack, it basically says, and again, I'm saying this off of what Tanner said when he was a guest here. He realizes that the majority of React applications out there that exist, especially in larger organizations and larger deployment, are basically client-side rendered applications. So you can
100%. Yeah, like 60/40.
exactly, and then you can enrich client-side rendered applications with server-side rendered components. You don't have to flip your entire architecture in order to adopt it.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. I mean, how many times have you started off with a Vite app, right? And it's really cool. It's great. It's got all the functionality and this and then you got to like actually call off to an API to do something, right? Well, either you've got to run a different API server and do cores, or you got to do some hackery inside the Vite config to go and add some API routes or things like that. That's essentially what Start is giving you a nice formalized way of creating those API routes and having them integrated in the app, creating server functions, which is something you don't get in the Pages router, and then making it very easy to call stuff on the back end. But
And
yeah, starting at the front
encapsulate it,
end as the primary vehicle, and then saying, okay, we can augment with stuff in the back end.
and still encapsulate it as reusable components.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And before we end on this topic, it was really interesting for me two aspects. For the first is that you're also addressing Vue, and in fact, kind of like you said, in a way that's kind of analogous to the way that you're kind of positioning TenStack Start for React versus Next.js. You're kind of positioning TenStack for Start for Vue versus, let's say, Nuxt in a sense. So giving a bit of an alternative to Nuxt, I guess.
I guess. Yeah. I mean, I only know of the Vue stuff, a little bit. I went in actually to try and see if I could create TanStack app to go and build out some Vue apps, and I was like, oh, okay, this is still a little early days, but I think it's very promising.
And finally, that Solid Start is effectively wholly built on TenStack Start now.
Is
So
Solid Start built? Well,
you
there's
said
well,
that
yeah.
TenStack.
Sorry, there's very confusing. There's the original like Solid Start from the Solid team, and then there's TanStack Start for Solid, which is just a
Oh, and they
long
are
name.
different.
Yeah, no, there is a difference. Yeah, it's two different things.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting. I
Yeah.
wonder if
Although,
they.
hey, I don't know. Talk to Ryan.
Yeah,
Maybe
I'm.
10, maybe it's 2.0 is like, hey, we'll take we'll take the server side stuff for you.
Yeah, that's the thing I wanted to say. We had them both on the show together, and there's so much overlap between the thing that they're doing, and given that Ryan's primary interest is not that whole back end to front
Yeah.
end start
No.
part, I can definitely see the collaboration increasing. His is
Yeah.
the whole thing about reactivity and stuff
Signals.
and signals
Yeah.
and async signals. By the way,
Yeah, that's exciting. I'm excited about Solid 2.0.
I have to tell you, I literally told him that from the way that I see it, he should probably be in the academia.
Yeah, maybe. But, I mean, having him out in the real world is, nice in that like he really understands like like the full totality of our space. You can ask him pretty much about any server and any framework, and he just keeps up with all of it. He knows all the different approaches. It's really he's a
Yeah, he's
fantastic guy. He
amazing.
actually lives pretty close to me now, so
Oh yeah,
hopefully I can
that's
get him out
cool.
for lunch again. So
Oh yeah, I know that they've moved. So
yeah, they moved up to Oregon.
Oh, cool.
Where are
That's
you at,
amazing.
Jack?
I'm in Portland, Oregon.
So am I.
Hey, there you go. We need to meet up.
Yes, we do. I'm out
Yeah.
east. I'm in out east in Gresham, but
Oh, I'm out east. I'm in Happy Valley.
oh, dude, you're like
Dude,
5 miles from me.
Dude, we need to meet up. There
Yes,
you go.
we do. I didn't know you were like right around the corner.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
It's a small world.
It is a small world. I would say Portland is kind of up and coming. Like if you're on the West Coast, Portland is a great city. It really is. Like but don't come here because we don't want more people.
With all the construction going on right around my house, man. Trust me. You don't need to
Oh my God, dude. Getting around though, like there's
Yeah.
always a flag guy. Like
Well,
every commute I've got, there's always like
It might surprise you,
flagger.
but Tel Aviv is undergoing like the whole city is on. We basically say that the whole city is on wheels. Like all the streets are dug up. It's all filled with cranes. We're building a kind of like a metro system, so everything is like dug up. High rises going up all over the place. So
Wow.
it's not. Yeah, but the problem is trying to get from point A to point B inside the city is becoming literally impossible.
Yeah, if you want a fun history lesson, go check out the history of Chicago. They actually raised up a lot of buildings up on these jacks when they were adding in like sewage and plumbing lines and all that kind of stuff. And there were stories of folks waiting in an intersection as a house would come by.
Well, per my understanding, it's kind of built like on the basis of a swamp or something.
Well, I think that's DC actually.
Yeah, it's
Oh, yeah?
DC.
Sure. Maybe
that's Washington.
Maybe
DC.
also Washington. Yeah.
Or like Mexico City, which is built on a lake.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah, I was just there.
But I think we're kind of digressing off of the
Yes,
topic.
a little bit. That's okay.
Let's try to
That's
get back
what podcasts are for.
Heck yeah.
exactly. So let's try to get back to the original topic that I thought would be great to discuss with you, and that's the new 10-stack component that you've mentioned, which is 10-stack AI.
Yep.
So you said that it's kind of like the Vercel V0, whatever they call it, offering.
No, it's not V0. V0 is their application builder. I'm talking about the Versal
okay.
AI SDK, which is a library that gives you an agnostic wrapper around the AI, the LLM chat, APIs for all these backend primarily. Although they can now support like we can do this too: image generation, video generation, structured content. And
So what would I use it for? What is it exactly? Like, let's talk about your stuff. So what is exactly 10-stack AI, and what would I use it for?
Right. So let's say that you want to go and add a chat functionality to your app, right? You want to have the user be able to, have a bot and talk to the bot and get like product information, that kind of stuff. So 10-stack AI, that library is going to be the server side of that equation. It gives you a vendor agnostic way of connecting to LLMs. So Anthropic, OpenAI, Ollama, they all have the same basic API and then you can connect it to our chat function, which is an agentic chat, which means that it supports server-side tools with approvals and all that kind of fun stuff. So you can get an agentic workflow out of the app, and then you can connect to that. That actually gives you a bunch of tokens that you can then send out via any way you want. We give you out of the box HTTP streams and server sent events, and then the AI client stuff, which we also wrap as AI React, is a generic way to connect to that endpoint and then get the message stream and put it into the chunk stream, and then convert that into messages, so you get the full on chat experience. And it supports also client side tools, so you can have things like and a good example would be, I'm on a e-commerce site and I want to talk with the chatbot about what a motorcycle I want to buy or something like that. And it says, oh, here's the motorcycle for you, blah, 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 blah. And you can say, cool, add it to my cart. I don't know if you do that with a motorcycle, but, and then it would use a client. Some people are a lot wealthier than me, would then, add it to your cart on the client side or on the server side, however you want to play it. So that's where that kind of tools integration and agentic workflow come in. So
your primary audience would be a website looking to integrate AI functionality, or literally building something like a cursor?
Ooh, that's an interesting. You could build Cursor, and in fact, actually, I believe OpenCode uses the Versal AI SDK, but doesn't use it all that much. They just use it as like a neutral layer, so that they can go and have like a single code base that connects to OpenAI models and Anthropic models and all that. And I'm more than welcome to talk to them about moving to Tanstack AI. So yeah, you could use it in a CLI, you can use it in web, you can use it in native, you can use it in Electron if you want. You can actually run the tokens across IPC, right? It's really just a question of, you've got one thing that's going to go and give you an agnostic way to hit your LLMs for various services like chat or image generation or whatever they support. And then the client side, which is about like getting the tokens back and formatting them into messages so that they're easy to display.
So if on the higher level, it seems to me, let's see if I understand correctly, that you're offering two main services. One is an LLM agnostic way to connect to the LLMs.
Yep.
And you're saying that they have a similar but not identical API, so you overlay like a facade on top of that basically irons out the wrinkles and makes them actually identical in a sense.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And in addition, you also get a chat client that works with this infrastructure on the back end.
Yeah. And we're just in the process of finalizing that. We'll be moving. We have our own internal standard for chunks, right? That'd be, this is the LLM and it just put out a chunk with, this particular token in it or whatever. And we're going to be moving to what's called AGUI, which is a standard for chunked tokens. And the cool thing there is that you'll be able to use our server AGUI exported chunks with anything on the front end that supports that standard. So you don't have to use our hooks and our client if you don't want to, and vice versa. If you use our client and our hooks, you could talk to any server doing AGUI on the back end. And we actually also have currently Python and PHP libraries for the server, which is something that something that the Versal AI SDK isn't currently supporting. It's a TypeScript only ecosystem where we are pretty interested in making sure that like Python Fast API, as an example, was well positioned and is able to use it, as well as PHP, because there are a few sites out there that run on PHP.
Interesting. I'll actually speak to the AI engineers at Sisense, the place where I work, and
cool.
To let them know about it, because we have AI chats embedded within our software. We also do AI-based services. So we do data analytics. You can you can actually, we call it semantic enrichment. You can actually tell the system, hey, I want AI to provide additional metadata on top of the metadata that I got out of the databases that I'm working with.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
That's
and
perfect.
and it's really a useful functionality. It makes reasoning with your data much easier. And definitely, I don't know which models we're currently limited to, but if we are able to easily open it up to additional models, that could be really, really interesting, because very often our customers say, hey, we prefer working with this model or that model
Yeah.
because that's the one that is standardized within our organization. That's the one that we have coupons for and stuff like that. Yeah, we use Ralph, so now we run through coupons like
Yeah.
crazy.
Ralphin.
uh exactly. Yeah, we'll probably talk about that maybe later on, but uh
Yeah.
um
So in terms of compatibility, just so folks know, we originally came out with OpenAI, Anthropic, Gemini, and Olama, and then we added Grok, and now we've just recently added OpenRouter. So uh, quite a bit of support there. And then we're also obviously looking at Azure and Bedrock as next big primary targets in terms of the back end support. And the reason it takes a little bit of time is we spend a lot of time actually going through and taking a look at all the different models, cataloging them, getting all the TypeScript support in there. Because when you select a model from a vendor, then you get all the usual properties, but you also like a temperature and this and that. But you also get proprietary properties for each model, and they're all strongly typed. So if you've got things like some sort of, I don't know, conversation ID or something like that, that's going to go to Anthropic for storage, then you can add that in, and it's all type safe.
And how do you align through the differences between the various models? Because you said that they're very similar but not identical. So I assume that there might be some interesting differences and kinks to work out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, not so much to be honest. I mean, they're like, yeah, there's like little, there's proprietary flags for sure. Um, but most of the LLMs, they pretty much standardized on at least in term on the options. It's the chunk format really that comes back like from the actual vendor. That can get a little that's actually where we end up spending a bunch of time, is like massaging the chunks coming back from the LLM into our standard, and now obviously a GUI standard, and then from there we send it up to the client.
So given the AGUI standard, theoretically in an ideal world, 2 years from now, you won't actually be needed?
Yeah, well, okay. I think that, I guess there's some really cool stuff that we're working on that's like way, way, way beyond what people are used to seeing out there. So I kind of consider where we are currently in our published state sort of like table stakes.
Mm.
And then, but the kind of stuff that we'll be putting on top of that is going to be groundbreaking. So I'm really, really excited about that.
Oh, that'll be interesting. Also, again, when you're talking about extended media types like audio, video,
Hmm.
images, you're adding a whole new additional layer of complexity, which I'm sure needs better alignment between the different models, the type of stuff that they're handing out back, and how you
Yeah,
actually present it to the user.
yeah, like video was a kind of is an entirely different interaction model. It's a like a job based model. So you fire off a job, you get back a job ID, because it just takes so long. It takes so long to generate video. So it's like an entirely different API surface. In fact, actually, that's kind of an interesting digression. We actually spent a bunch of time going from kind of like a initial release to the second release that had like all the support for image and video and structured output and that sort of stuff. And the reason was because we kind of did an API review, and we saw that we were just going to keep on adding new functions to the export of AI. like generate image and generate video, and we kind of ask ourselves, is that what we want to do? Because as the field expands, you just kind of want to keep adding functions to it. And so we initially decided, well, we're just going to try to see if we can do a polymorphic design where you have it just like basically one export coming out of Tanstack AI, one real export, which would be the AI function. And then based on the model that we send in, we would then do all the typing and all that kind of stuff to like say, oh, okay, cool. This is a video model. Therefore, you're going to get back a job ID or something like that. And what we found after 6 days was that it just wasn't a great model. And it was actually working with the AIs themselves that allowed me to kind of go in and say, hey, between these two different APIs, this kind of generic AI function versus generate image, with that, what would you prefer us to do and write? And what do you think would increase accuracy of an LLM? And 100% across the board, all the frontier models are like, dude, generate image, duh.
Oh yeah, well, that's not actually really surprising.
No, it's not surprising at all. But it's one of those things where you're like, oh, maybe we should have done this earlier. So that's
it's kind of like HTML having
learnings.
it's kind of like HTML having the different tags for the very different media types rather than having like a generic media type element that does everything.
Right, exactly. It's so much more verbose. And if you have just a single function AI, right, you're giving away like the primary communications vehicle for what the thing does, which is the function name. It's like pretty obvious once you think about it. The other thing that I thought was interesting about that experience was that all of the agents like Claude and all that were really having a hard time actually trying to get the polymorphic stuff to work. One, you get it right, it would work for one thing, and then it would break something else. And we had all these type tests and all that kind of stuff. And what I really learned was that AI is not going to complain, man. It's going to be like, okay, yeah, no problem, man. I can do whatever you want. And that's a problem because if it had been me trying to manually code this new interface, I would have been like an hour into it and been like, man, this doesn't work. Like, this is really hard. Like, it shouldn't be this hard. And that's always been like those pain points have always been like an engineering smell to like see in the junior devs, senior devs. Like, you run into a wall and like C++ is not happy with how you're doing your stuff. That's an indication that you probably are doing it the wrong way. Or same thing, TypeScript and types. If you're having a heck of a time trying to type it correctly, maybe that's not great. Maybe you want to do something else.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing about AIs from what I've been experiencing is that AI, even when you tell it, we were talking about it before, about the rule files before we start the show. Even when you tell it you're an experienced developer, whatever, it still very much works like a junior in terms of its attitude.
Yeah, whatever you tell me to do, boss, I'm in.
Yeah, they're very compliant,
Yeah. Too compliant.
Too compliant. They'll do what you tell them to do, even if it's totally stupid.
Yeah.
Or they'll try to do it. Yeah.
Unless you ask it to review, and it'll do a good review. Yeah. Like, I've actually asked it like, hey, does this make sense? And yeah. But I understand, like, at least in Cursor, there's 4 different modes. There's agent mode, do what I tell you to do. There's plan mode, the underutilized plan mode, which I use the heck out of. Basically, it'll ask you like, okay, before we do this, I've got some questions. And then there's ask and debug. And ask is also, I would say, like an underrated S tier mode where you can just ask the thing, like, how did you do that?
I've used all of them except debug.
Yeah, me too.
I don't really get debug.
No, yeah, but it's there. But I'm in love with the browser stuff. Oh my god, it's so great.
What do you mean?
The browser integration in Cursor. It's like, hey, this page doesn't look right. Go fix it. And it's like, okay, and pops up a browser, takes a screenshot. Like,
yeah, I've seen.
It'll automate it for you. All that stuff. It's great.
I've been playing. we spoke personally a lot about MCPs. I've been playing with. I had a project. It's an interesting project. Again, we're digressing all over the place.
Eh.
I had an interesting project that I've been working on, looking at work. Uh, we had a whole bunch. Like we are, Sisense has been around the block, the company, and for years their approach to testing, when they kind of automated away from manual QA, is to build a ton of end-to-end tests. So most of the
Okay.
coverage is achieved by end-to-end tests rather than by unit tests or integration tests. So there's like thousands of end-to-end tests out there, and they were built because they were built years ago. They were built using Selenium and
Oh yeah.
Java.
Oh yeah.
Actually,
Oh,
more
dude, no.
actually, even more accurately, they were built using, if you heard about it, using Serenity,
Oh
which is
wow. No, I don't know that one.
so it's a layer above Selenium that uses Cucumber or Gherkin or
Oh yeah,
BDD type
yeah.
tests.
Cucumber tests. I remember those.
Exactly. So Serenity is basically Selenium plus Cucumber.
Yeah.
Um, so I was looking at the possibility of migrating these tests to Playwright, because we write all our new tests in Playwright, and Playwright, despite all its own challenges, is much better than Selenium, and most of our coding these days is done in TypeScript rather than Java.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we wanted to align on that stuff, but nobody is going to manually migrate thousands and thousands of tests. So I was looking at the possibility of using AI to automate as much of the effort as possible, and I kind of showed that it was possible to reach somewhere between 80 to 90% automatic migration, which is
Nice.
not
Okay.
100%. It still
Yeah.
leaves a whole bunch of manual effort, especially that sometimes it's the challenging manual effort. But getting rid of 90% of the work is a definite plus.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And so I was talking about that because one of the things that I was trying to do is whenever it failed, I basically told it to try to use the Playwright MCP server to try to figure out what the problem was and see if they can
Yeah.
fix it
Yeah,
automatically.
yeah, yeah.
Sometimes it could, sometimes it couldn't, but it was interesting to watch the
Yeah.
attempts.
And you're Ralphing. Basically Ralphing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm manual Ralphing.
You're more, yeah.
You know what? We digressed to that.
Let's
We
talk about
probably
Ralphing.
What?
let's
We
talk about
digressed?
Ralphing. Yeah,
Steve's like, I
we
don't know. What
we
are you guys talking
probably
about?
we would probably I probably want to bring Matt Pocock to speak about that, but we're
Sure.
here anyway, so let's
Yeah,
talk
why
about
not?
Ralphing for a minute.
Yeah.
I was just watching a video of his last night.
There you go. Was it about Ralphing?
No, it was about the the SDK that you were talking about, the AI.
Yeah, the Vercel SDK. Yeah.
Vercel, thank you. Because
he's got a full course on that, like a big course on that. So
yeah, because I'm using it for a demo app. So yeah,
okay,
cool.
yeah. Well,
anyway, sorry, I digress.
Should use Tanstack. That's all. By the way, so if your viewers or listeners, the Tanstack AI, all the Tanstack libraries are completely independent of each other. So you don't have to be on Tanstack Start to use Tanstack AI. You can use it on anything you want.
Yeah, I use Tanstack Cable for a few things.
Yeah, Tanstack, the OG library.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ralphing. I'm gonna guide the redirection.
Since you mentioned Tanstack Table, one of the things that I ran into problem with in that project was I don't remember which virtualized table library it was actually being used, but it's a real big hassle to do E2E, effectively visual testing with virtual tables.
Yeah.
Because the screen
the
size,
nodes don't exist. Yeah.
the nodes don't exist. You kind of dependent. So I had tests fail, migrated tests failed because I didn't make the virtual screen big enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk about brittle
That is pretty
solutions
brutal, yeah, actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
and fragile tests and stuff like that. Your screen is too small, so the test failed.
Make the virtual screen 16,000 pixels by
Yeah,
20,000 pixels.
exactly,
Just get it.
exactly.
Get
Just
it.
so that all the column headers fit in, because
There's never
otherwise
been a
you're looking.
monitor this big. But
Otherwise,
go
it's
for it.
just the element is just not there. It's insane.
Yeah, man. Like I used to do Mac OS programming back in like the version 5 days, man. I've been through it all, and we did a lot of virtual table stuff back then. And I'm like, no, never again, never. Nope. I don't want to manage scroll bars. Don't want to write virtual table code. Nope.
Yeah, well, it's a good business though.
Yeah, well, so is like maintaining COBOL code, I guess. Nowadays, I wonder if like LLMs are gonna put those guys out of business.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they need
these guys are literally dying off. You literally
that's true, I guess.
LLM.
Yeah. If we all want to get paychecks, better make sure the LLMs know how to understand that code.
Yeah. Well, I would think that COBOL is like the optimal language for LLMs, giving its verbosity. Add 1 to 3 in order increase variable by 4.
Yeah. You talk about digressions, man. I was, I think, watching some football game, and I was like, oh man, what's COBOL look like? It's like one of the programming language I've never coded it in. And I just got like 3 minutes into it. I'm like, nope, I'm good. Nah, I don't know. There's some things I just don't need to know.
There's a story about Alan Kay, the guy who invented object-oriented programming and Smalltalk and whatnot, that he was walking around Stanford, and suddenly he saw a crowd of people. So he walked over to see what it was, and it turns out that Admiral Grace Hopper was visiting.
Cool.
And somebody mentioned she invented COBOL, and he said something like, "Oh, my condolences."
And she probably got a laugh out of that too. Yeah.
Anyway, so back to 10stack AI.
Right. Woo! Let's go.
Was that where we were?
In. Yes.
No, we were talking. I think we were
almost talking about Ralph loops. Yeah.
Now, sorry, Jack, you'll probably get this more than Dan, but
okay.
Sorry, when I start hearing about Ralphing, I'm thinking about A Christmas Story and a Red Ryder BB gun. But that's
I was thinking about Rolfing. Remember, like there was a trend there for a while, like a massage technique where they'd like really crunch your bones and stuff. Rolfing.
I
think that's what it was. Much. Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Sorry. Anyway, go ahead, Dan.
So Ralph loop is named after Simpsons.
Oh, Ralph Wiggum. Yeah.
Yeah, Ralph Wiggum. Right. It's a Ralph Wiggum loop.
Yeah. Because Ralph Wiggum's a persistent kid. Just grinds. He grinds. So that's what a Ralph loop does. It grinds.
It's basically a while loop. If I understood correctly, correct me if I'm wrong. It's basically I forget who it was who invented it.
Some dude in a rancher in Australia.
Yeah, exactly. He was trying AI, and he was annoyed with the fact that AI would do some tasks for him, produce an incorrect results, and stop.
Right. And you just had to kick it in the butt and be like, no, that's wrong. Next, and eventually you would get it.
Yeah, like on the 5th try, the AI would get it. So basically, if I understand correct, the Ralph Wiggum loop is basically running AI in a loop. And every time you run a sort of a test suite to check if you've reached your end condition or not, and if it didn't, you take everything that you got and basically use it as an input to the loop all over again. So
maybe not everything you got, like a summary of what you got plus the original context.
So you're not original context plus the test results. You failed in this, that, and the other, and try it again.
Yeah. And the idea is that if you get like the context window too big, I mean, I'm starting to see like people empirically are starting to talk about like 50%, 60% above that kind of range. The AI, like the LLM, it gets in every time you make a request, it sends that entire block back over to
Let's talk about context windows for a minute, because I think it's critical aspect here.
It really is. Managing your context window. And that's what the Ralph loop is trying to do, is make sure that like it starts basically fresh on every single loop through.
It takes back whatever it needs, erases
Yeah.
everything else, and this way keeps the context manageable.
Yeah, because
So
people
let's talk
kind of
about
empirically found, like, yeah, as I say, like, 50-60%, and like they after that the LLM starts to quote unquote get dumb, and it starts
yeah.
to only look at the beginning and the end of the context,
Yeah,
really.
so basically the easiest way to see it is if you're working in an environment like Claude Code or Cursor or whatever, and you're trying to get and you basically have this chat that goes through your entire work day, and let's say you're working on the same problem the whole day, you would notice that towards the end of the day, instead of getting smarter and better understanding of what you're trying to achieve given everything that you've researched and investigated over the day, the LLM is actually getting dumber and
Yeah,
producing
yeah,
incorrect results rather than better results.
right.
That sounds
And
like me
that
when
has
I'm getting tired after the end of the day.
Exactly. It needs a
it,
coffee.
Right.
When
Well,
in this
kinda.
case, the coffee is
I drink this,
is
but yeah, close
I
enough.
don't know what that is. Oh, is that Red
Rockstar.
Bull or something? Oh,
Anyway.
geez. I've tried those, man. I get heart palpitations. Entirely different topic. But yeah, the idea being like, their version of a Rockstar is that you basically go back to the original context and say like, okay, starting as if we haven't done well, starting with where we are now, let's try and hit this again, and so you don't have that huge context.
So basically the context window is the input that you send to the LLM effectively, right? Would
Yep,
that
it's
be a
all the
good
messages,
definition?
all the system prompt, and that includes like all the tool calls and everything else. So yeah.
And it has limited size.
Yep.
So when you're having a really lengthy conversation with your LLM, effective at one point or another, you'll exceed your context window size, which can vary between LLMs. I think it's like how many Ks is
Oh,
it
it
usually?
it varies wildly between LLMs, but it'll do most of these clients will do like a compaction phase. They'll basically do a summarization and try to do like a Wiggum loop. The trick is that you don't really know what the summarization did or said, so it could have gotten it wrong. So what I tend to do is my workflow is that I'll get like pretty deep into a conversation. I'll get to a point where it's like it's working, and then I'll have it build a markdown file that's like, this is where we got to, and then I'll kill that conversation. Bye. Don't feel any attachment to that version of
So
Claude.
you
There's a whole
close
new
the
Claude that'll help you.
you close you if it's Cursor, you close the chat window and you
Right.
open a new chat
New
window.
chat window and say, here's your context, buddy. This is where we got to. Now let's start from there. And yeah, as you say, like it keeps them smart because they like being in a small context window to get better results.
I have a similar but somewhat different approach. I've gotten kind of enamored. We've spoken about it with rule files. So what
Yeah.
I do is I constantly iteratively try to improve the rule file, and then at a certain point in time I'll say, okay, the rule file has reached a certain level. I'll close the conversation and basically just kill it. Instead of telling it summarize what we've had so far, I'll continuously look at my rule file as an up-to-date summarization of the chat and whatever preceded it
Yeah.
to that point. And
Yeah.
so I'll close the chat and I'm starting fresh just with that updated rule file. And I take a really iterative approach to updating the rule file all the time. I
Yeah.
also every once in a while tell it, please compact the rule file because it starts to accumulate a lot of gunk.
Yeah,
You'll
and that's
find a
the
lot
thing.
of
If you start off with
repetitive
a big file
instruction.
like that, you're gonna bloat the context window right off the bat, and
Exactly.
that's one of the things that folks are learning is like, okay, so we've got our Next.js or our big Tansec start app, and it's got some back end code, it's got some front end code, and what you want to do is kind of break out those rule files or architecture files such that like the React stuff is in its own file, so that the LLM can basically say, hey, cool, all I'm working on is React stuff right now. So I'm going to go and use that as my North Star of architecture. And that's going to deal with hooks and all this sort of stuff. And I'm not going to deal with anything on the back end. So I can leave all of that out of the context and really, really, really managing those contexts. And the other thing sorry.
Just as an aside,
Yeah.
I totally agree. And just to mention that you, in most of the environments that I've seen, you can actually configure the rule file to pertain to a specific folder and all
Right.
its
Yes.
subfolders.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so that's, or you can
Or
tell it,
regex, whatever. Yeah.
or regex, or you can tell it just use it according to the context, but then it becomes kind of risky.
Yeah. Yeah. What was I gonna say? Jeez.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. Oh man, yeah. So I actually, I kind of bifurcate. I have like an architecture document, and then I've got a status document. And the status documents are generally transient. I can get create them, delete them as part of a branch or whatever like that. But the architecture document is what sort of remains over time, and that
So it's
explains like the structure of the feature and all that.
So your mandatory, or the one that is always applied, is the basic architectural document, and the rest are either used transiently or used for specific parts of the application.
Yeah. I remember what I was going to talk about. So tool calls. So if you watch your Claude, whatever, Claude Code or whatever, the cursor as it's executing things like, oh, look, I'm doing a PM, PX, blah, 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 all that stuff. Every one of those is a tool call, which means that it's actually the AI out in the cloud is basically telling your client, is terminating your connection to the client with a thing that says, hey, right now I want you to go and execute this thing locally and then send back whatever the results of it were. And then it does that. And then it sends it back along with all of the context in another call back to the LLM. So those round trips, one, are huge. And two, like every one of those little invocations is just chewing up more and more and more context. So even just like, oh, I'm having to iterate through all the files and blah, 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 blah. Like that's just nomming your context.
So it's not just about the fact, I kind of learned this the hard way, again, going back to that example that I gave, that initially I would literally have the LLM run all the tests to verify that whatever I updated didn't break anything. But I saw that not only was it taking a whole lot of time, it was also eating up the context. So instead, I became much more strategic about which tests I would actually rerun.
And in fact, actually, I think you could even be more strategic. And I haven't done this myself, but like, and we all have these like great test runners that have all kinds of like beautiful output and all these blah 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 thing, and oh look, you've done great. That's a lot of text, that's coming out of those things, and that text gets added into the context. So maybe having your test runner basically just output, these are the tests that failed. Otherwise,
don't do dash verbose.
Yeah, do not do dash. Anything verbose is not great. And if you got something where you got a bad setup, like I have a one particular shell that's not particularly well set up, and sometimes like Claude will have to like try 3 different ways to run the command and get like a little gnarly about that. Fix that, because that, again, that's just round tripping, and that's taking a lot of cost. And so it's compound interest, right? So if when you think about all the tokens that you spend every time you make a request, you're basically all of the tokens you just spent in the last request plus all the tokens that you're spending on this request. That's what you're spending. So it's a lot. It's a lot. That's how you get like those, how did I spend $1 million tokens on this request? Oh, it's because it's compounding interest.
Interesting. Yeah, it's definitely something to think about.
There's no state. It's totally stateless.
I have to say that this year has been an amazing learning experience year for me.
Right? Anybody who stayed in the field is like, whoa, dude, this is crazy.
Yeah. And the great thing is everybody's talking about how AI is eating our jobs, and to an extent it is. And to a certain extent it is, but if you're the one who knows how to properly use the tools, you've 10x yourself, and you are going to be in demand.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, Tanner pinged me on like, I think it was like Friday night, and I'm out at like Blade Runner, the symphonic version with my wife, and I'm getting this thing from him saying like, hey, I think I'm gonna look into like making Builder on the website, and it was middle of the night, and I'm like, okay, sure, why not, go for it. And then like by the next morning, he was done. Like he was done with the initial release, like no problem. There you go. And then he's adding features left and right, and it's like he's just on a tear. Like this is what LLMs, and we're talking about this, is like all the stuff that you thought you could do, and then you're like, oh, maybe I'll get there eventually. Blah 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 blah. It's like it just bang done. And it's really cool. So it's very exciting. The ironically funny thing is when you give it like a really big request, like, hey, let's architect this new feature or whatever. I don't know what it is, but Claude always comes back like, oh, this is going to take like 4 weeks for this part in phase 1 and 2 weeks for phase 2. And it's like, no, this is gonna be like 2 hours. Like we're gonna be done. Yeah, crazy, exciting times.
Or alternatively, I'm working on a certain legacy application. I was trying to figure out what's going on. I was asking the other developers on the team. None of them seemed to recall exactly how the functionality I was asking about actually works. So
Yeah.
I switched to ask mode, and I told Cursor, explain this flow to me, please. And it just worked, and it saves so much time.
Yeah. And what you really should do is have it then build out an MD file that explains that documents that architecture. So the next time you don't have to go and pay all those tokens for it to go and analyze.
So what I actually did, and that's another thing that I wanted to mention, is again, maybe people are talking about it, maybe they are not, but it's the rebirth of wikis. If you've got a wiki in your organization, you can upload this stuff into your wiki, and then in future calls you can tell the agent, here's the URL for the relevant document, or alternatively copy paste if you want to avoid the round trip. But so we're actually, for reasons, we are into Atlassian, the makers of Jira.
Yeah.
So they also have this kind of the thing called Confluence, which is their wiki thing.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's got an MCP server.
Sure.
So I can actually tell it, put that stuff that you just mentioned, take that MD, because otherwise where would I put and organize all those MD files?
Git?
So yeah, I guess, but then searching through them becomes annoying.
Yeah, that's true. There's an interesting project you might want to look at called Vibe Rules, and the idea is that you package the Markdown rules for the library with the library, and then when you bring it into Node modules, there's a Vibe Rules executable that you can run that basically extracts all of those rules into the local environment, so that then Claude or whatever your agent is can see it. And then you just, I guess, every time
It's
you
also
upload a new
that with
version,
wikis,
you run it again.
It's also that with wikis I can hyperlink across, which is much easier to do than it is in Git.
Okay, that's fair. I'm just used to like wikis where the actual format is Markdown, so it's kind of like
it's kind of annoying. In Confluence, it's Markdown-ish, which is
this is why I like
annoying.
Confluence, man. I've never had good experiences with Confluence. I'm hoping that their search has gotten better, but man, their search was like, you could use the exact right term and you wouldn't see it.
They've added AI capabilities. Surprise, surprise. So
yeah, of course
it's improved, but it seemed kind of useless to me, and now all of a sudden I'm getting this extra value from it.
Okay.
Because I can tell, like I said, I can basically use their MCP server to say, use this reference architecture document when you're implementing a new project or something like that.
Sure.
And it makes life easier. Yeah. But you're right, it would be easier if it were pure MD files, it would be a whole lot easier.
And the other thing is, I mean, doing that with like older projects is great because you're not going to version them that often. But if you're doing like early days work, and you're going to be changing around the APIs, and you've got like a branch where you've changed the APIs again, and you want to bring that in and see how it works. It's like, ooh, now I've got the canonical document is on the old API, or it's on the new API. It's like you want to have the document with the code and with that version of the code.
Oh, I agree. And rule files for example, definitely go with the code. I've switched from.
Cool. All right. We're good there.
Again, people are people often don't put the .cursor folder into, they ignore it in Git, or the .vs code folder. And I always take the opposite approach. I understand that some people like to have their own independent setups, but I won't use a curse word, but F it. I'm going to give you mine because I created this project. And now with the rule files, it's doubly so.
Yeah. There's a contributor on Tanstack who was just asking me just recently if she had a good idea that around an IDE / agent agnostic way of specifying rules and all that, and then just having a compiler or like a little command line thing that basically take that agnostic version and just like, oh, I'm on Cursor, like just run that and now give me the files. And I think it's a great idea. And so I had Claude go and do some competitive research, and turns out there's nothing like that out there. So hopefully she's gonna get into it and try it out.
It doesn't seem like a heavy lift. They are pretty similar. They're more or less all markdown, more or less, maybe with a little bit of a header that kind of explains when it should be used. But other than that, they're essentially all just markdown.
Yeah, and having like Claude do competitive research for you, underrated, man, underrated. Go for it. Like it will save you so much time. Like, oh, I don't know, I can't find this, library that does this and that. Cool, great. Go ask Claude. Maybe it'll find it for you, and maybe it'll say, cool, this is an area where nobody is in, and you should build it. But don't go and just randomly say, well, I have this great idea, and then build the 15th version of a, I don't know, some library that does, I don't know, virtual tables.
Actually, the bigger thing is how AIs are now both democratizing the SaaS market, but also kind of killing it.
Yeah. It's interesting. And like I remember just recently Guillermo said, oh, I don't know, I don't like this app. It's not being maintained. I think I'm gonna write, and just gonna have it. I'm gonna have Claude write a new version. And it's like, dude, people could do the same thing with Next.js apps. Let's be honest. Like, especially if you're on Pages Router. Like, I've actually got a Markdown document that basically says, here's how you go and take Markdown, the Pages Router version, which most people are still on because the app router really didn't make all that good inroads, and a lot of people have problems with it. A lot of Pages Routers can just be easily ported to Next.js.
Yeah, but just be careful with that. So recently, and we'll finish with that and probably switch over to Pix. But I recently saw a tweet by the CEO of one of those AI building tools, Base 44, saying that.
Wow, I haven't heard of that one. That's a new one on me.
They're actually they were bought by Wix, and Wix is pushing them to users. So they're actually like one of the they compete with Lovable and stuff like that. They're actually getting a lot of traction, it seems. I don't know, but anyway, so he said that he's seen customers replacing the Salesforce CRM with something they whip up with an AI tool.
Okay.
And just not pay the $100K a year to Salesforce, and instead basically get it for free. And somebody responded, well, if you can avoid paying and get 80% of functionality, it might be very worthwhile for you. And I said, sometimes yes, sometimes no. Like, you don't want 80% of a cure for cancer.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't want to like, if that's not the intellectual property of your company, then it's going to be tech debt. Like you can't just, we're going to order lunch. Okay, well, let's write a new version of, DoorDash. No, dude, you use freaking DoorDash. Like, don't do that.
Well, DoorDash, it's not the app. It's
Yeah, I
the
know. I'm just saying.
it's
Like,
the
I'm just
system. Yeah, but
use random examples.
a different example, I think, an actual legitimate example would be you probably don't want to rewrite TurboTax because you don't want the AI to
Oh,
hallucinate tax exemption laws.
oof. Yeah.
I
You
can
could end
only
up in
imagine.
you could end up in prison like that.
Yeah, little downsides. Little downsides.
All right.
Anyway,
So with that hallucination, or avoiding hallucination, we're going to wrap it up. I got a hard stop here in about 9 minutes.
Okay, cool.
So with that, first of all, thank you, Jack, for coming on.
Oh, always a pleasure.
Always nice to meet a neighbor.
Yeah, let's get together.
Yes, for sure. With that, we'll move to picks. Picks is the part of the show where we get to talk about whatever we want to, whether it's tech, non-tech, books, movies.
Love
I
it.
do my dad jokes. So I will start off with what is, in my opinion, the high point of every episode, which is the dad jokes of the week. And then we'll save the guests
haven't
for
heard them in
last.
a while, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you're looking forward to them. We'll see. So, first of all, so when I become a lawyer, which eventually I'll do it, maybe I'll use AI to study to become a lawyer. I want to defend a penguin. So that way I can say the words, Your Honor, clearly my client is not a flight risk.
Oh,
right.
Brutality.
Just for that, I'll tell you a quick lawyer joke.
Oh,
So
okay.
this young lawyer is sitting opened his new office. He's like in the rundown part of town, zero clients, no traction, none whatsoever. He's sitting alone in his office, hoping for improvement. And all of a sudden, there's this puff of smoke, and the devil appears
Oh,
and says, "I will make you the most successful, rich, famous lawyer in the entire country. But in return, your wife, your kids, your entire family, all your friends will spend eternity in hell." The lawyer looks at them and goes, "What's the catch?"
Ouch. Okay.
Anyway.
Man.
Oof. Two more quick ones. Cars these days have way too many gadgets. For example, I tried to reverse the other day and it played a video of somebody getting run over by a car. And then finally, a comma in a sentence can make a huge difference. For instance, let's eat, comma, Frank, has a completely different meaning from Frank is in a coma.
Right. Yes, right. That is true.
As compared, the classic one is let's eat Frank versus let's eat Frank,
Yeah, but your variation is a good one. I liked it.
So, all right, Dan, what do you got?
Okay, so I thought about having a tech pick, but it was Ralph Loops, and we ended up talking about it. I'll just mention that Matt Pocock did an excellent video about it. So if you're interested, just search Ralph Wiggum and find Matt's video and watch it because he gives a very thorough and interesting explanation. He's very engaging. You should probably have him on the show again. So that would actually be a pick. And another pick is I'm reading a series of books called The Dresden Files or Dresden Files.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with the city Dresden. It's with a person called Dresden.
Okay.
And it's kind of a gumshoe novel meets fantasy. He's simultaneously a private investigator and a wizard. It happens. It takes place. It takes place in modern. Yeah, it takes place in modern day Chicago.
With wizardry.
With wizardry.
Yes.
And it's all told in first person. It's light reading. It's very engaging. There's a lot of action. So if you like wizards duking it out with all sorts of with other wizards or monsters, it's full of that stuff. And there are like a ton of books. There are how many books in the series? I think like 17 books in the series. So
nice.
and each one is kind of self-contained, so you can read them independently. But I would recommend just reading them in order. And they're by Jim Butcher. They actually apparently tried to make a TV series out of this like 4, 5, 6 years ago, and it only ran for one season.
The
I've never
Butcher
seen
Files.
the Dresden File. The
Yeah,
Butcher is the name of the
I
author.
know. I'm just
Anyway, so yeah, that would be one pick. The other pick is a really guilty pleasure. It's a channel on YouTube by this guy Arvin Haddad. He What he does is he apparently helps the ultra rich purchase real estate.
Oh, that
Uh,
sounds great.
and so no, but he has this really amusing channel where it turns out that whenever like this $100 million villa or whatever goes on the market, they create this sort of a marketing video for
Well,
it.
of course, it's $100 million.
Yeah, so it's like a house tour, virtual house tour where this
Yeah,
guy walks. So what he does is he takes these videos and analyzes them and makes and just shows how ridiculous some of these houses are. So he really jokes about it the whole time. So like they show you, look at this amazing kitchen, and he said, but it's an awful kitchen. Like or
right. Totally
yeah,
not ergonomic. Yeah.
yeah, no. So, but it's gotten to a point where his channel is so popular, even though he pokes fun at all their videos, all the content creators want him to critique their videos because it gets them more engagement.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you see, like these $100 million houses, which would say I would not be caught dead living in a house like that, even if I could afford it, because
Yeah.
it's like you're like living in an airport terminal. It's like it's horrible.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
super generic, doesn't have any life or vitality to it.
yeah,
Like, yeah,
like
it's like we have a 3,200 square foot house, and it's like there are parts of the house we're almost rarely ever in, and it's like that. I can only imagine how many square feet $100 million house is. That's
yeah,
insane.
and again, so it's really amusing. I enjoy watching his videos. He's really engaging. He has a great sense of humor. It's fun to poke. It's fun to poke fun at the rich and famous. So yeah, that would be my third pick, I guess. And those are my picks for today.
All right. I think I've only got one, so I have gotten my family hooked on Open Shocks bone conducting headphones. So they keep your ears like open, and they
Right.
they rest on the back of your ear and in the, like right before your ear, and they are phenomenal. There's like a headset version that you can use for meetings. There's a kind of running version. That's the one I use. And
I
they're
think there's a version
great.
for swimming.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, my wife
Wow.
has gotten back into swimming in a big way. She's doing, butterfly laps and all this stuff. And when she finally kind of like felt good back in the pool again, she tried the headphones on, and they store MP3 files, like old school like MP3 files, which I had to go source that. But that was kind of fun, but still, and also Bluetooth. I guess we're gonna do that. But apparently, she's saying like underwater, they sound phenomenal, like underwater, which is crazy. So that's
Yeah,
pretty
it
cool.
kind of uses your body as kind of this
Yeah,
vibrate
right. Bone
effective.
conduction. Yeah,
Exactly. It's really interesting. I've
and
I've heard about.
they're
I've seen
very
them,
lightweight.
but I've never actually tried to use them.
Yeah, I would try it out. They're not like, at least in the US, they're not super expensive, and they're very lightweight. And also they're one piece, so you don't have that issue of things falling all over the place. And then the other thing is, I after I get back from a run, I just put them under the faucet, and it's like done. There you go, clean. Love it.
Well, you run.
Done. There you go. Yeah, gotta do something.
All right, yeah, those are cool. A buddy of mine is a firefighter out on the west side of town here, and they had some of their masks that had those built in, and I tried them on. They're crazy. It's
Yeah, they're great.
crazy how good they sound.
Yeah.
It's really weird thinking it's not coming through your ears, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It's cool. All right, well, I got to jump. So
Okay.
we've been talking for quite a while anyway. So thanks everybody for listening. Thank you, Jack, for coming, and we'll talk at y'all next time on JavaScript Jabber.